Report. Detective James Thompson. PD. What follows is a report regarding the incident that took place at the Jimmy's Hot Pie Inn between the dates of August 10th to August 11th. On August 11th, police responded to a call to a local pizzeria called Jimmy's Hot Pie at around 8 a.m. Once on the scene, officers Hudson and Palmer found the restaurant to have contained nothing more than a massacre. Blood and bodies were everywhere. According to them, the place more resembled a butcher shop than a pizzeria. I didn't arrive on the scene for another 30 minutes. They were right. We found what we estimated to be 10 to 15 bodies inside. We couldn't identify half of them. They'd been hacked to pieces. We also found a single survivor sitting in one of the booths in the front. He was quiet and covered head to toe in blood. He was, naturally, our first suspect. The survivor looked to be in his early to mid-20s. Upon getting his ID, we discovered that his name was Jacob Lawson. He was a student at the local college, and by all accounts, had a clean record. We let the medics examine him before taking him in for an interrogation. He didn't say much during the examination. The medics informed us that he had only minor injuries, so we brought him in for questioning. He was cooperative, at first. What follows is a transcript of the interview alongside some edit notes. Detective Thompson.
Mr. Lawson, you know how this looks, right?
Lawson.
I do.
Can you tell us what happened?
I don't exactly know where to start.
Did you kill your friends?
Friends? It was my first day on the job. I barely knew these people. And no, I didn't kill anyone.
Well then, what happened? Because we found around 10 dismembered bodies, and you covered in blood. Walk me through the night.
Like I said, it was my first day. I was doing a ride-along with this short dude in a Mustang. You know, learning the ropes.
Short dude in a Mustang? That wouldn't happen to be Ted Haddock's, would it?
I know his name was Ted. Dude talked my ear off on our first delivery. He had kind of a bubbly attitude. I don't want to say he was weird, but...
Uh-huh. Tell me about the incident. What was the first sign something was off?
Ted was giving me instructions on how to use one of the phones when this girl walked in. The real plump-looking one. Deborah, I think her name was. She came walking in looking all sad, tears in her eyes and whatnot. She stopped at the counter and looked at Ted. Ted kinda groaned. Her eyes met mine for a split second. She gave me a confused glance before looking back at Ted. "Is Ryan in?" she'd asked. Ted sighed. I could tell he doesn't like her too much. Ryan.
Ryan? Ryan Hawthorne?
I don't know his last name, but yeah. Ryan came up front and things got nasty.
How so?
Well, Ted immediately looked at me and was like, "Let's get to the back." We walked into the back of the store and stood at the dish pit, where an older man, Greg I think, was doing the dishes. I could still hear the yelling though. "I told you to leave me alone. And I told you I love you. Why can't you just love me back? Deborah, stop!" Shit was crazy. There was crying. I could hear one of the managers say in a firm voice, "Deborah, you need to leave or I'm calling the police."
Which manager was that?
The younger one.
Rex Jackson?
That sounds right. Anyway, she left. Ted would go on to explain that Deborah had actually slept with like 3 of the dudes at the store. Ryan, Rex, and another guy called Duck. But she was supposedly really into Ryan. Like, on an obsessive level. She'd learned his schedule. She'd show up when he'd go to McDonald's for breakfast before his other job, then act like it was an accident. Ted said, and I quote, "Bitch is crazy." I guess Ted and Ryan were kinda tight too. Ted would follow up that statement with a story about how when Deborah worked at the pizzeria with him, she'd loudly announced that she wanted to off herself in front of Ted. She, I guess, was trying to manipulate Ted into talking to Ryan. Get him to be like, "Hey, yo, get your girl," kinda thing.
But she left?
She walked out the front door. Business was super slow in that moment. Ted gave me a few pointers, then kinda left me on my own in the dish pit. He walked up front and went to talk with Ryan and Rex. It was about 5:30 when that conversation had taken place. The night manager, Andrea, was working the oven with her boyfriend. I want to say his name was Chance. I could see them from around the corner of the dish pit. They were talking with Ryan, Ted, and Rex about what just happened. I can remember Ted was very adamant that we called the police anyway, but Ryan wasn't. "She'll leave," he reassured. "She fucking better. I'm tired of hearing about her and her potato-looking ass," Ted said. It was around then that I heard Greg stop doing dishes behind me. He peeked around the corner with me. God, they're all so fucking lazy. This guy personified the definition of grumpy old man. Like, Ted told me about him during our delivery. Well, warned me, I guess. The guy was the classic boomer. If you have free time, you should be working kinda type. I didn't say anything to him. He kinda wandered off deeper into the store to find something else to do. The store stayed really dead after that. We had absolutely 0 orders for the next hour. It got kinda boring, I guess. People kinda just stood around on their phones. Well, aside from Greg and that Vicky girl. She was busy terrorizing one of the other drivers.
Which driver?
Rico, the super young one. He smelled funny.
What was she doing to him?
Just poking at him. "Haha, Rico, you look like you like dick." All the typical homophobic shit you expect to find in Texas. But from what I gathered, Rico wasn't even gay.
Okay, that doesn't sound important.
You asked.
When did Deborah come back in?
After the store computer went out.
Store computer?
It was more like everything that required internet to operate suddenly went blank. We couldn't get any orders, couldn't look at our phones, couldn't see the delivery map. Crazy first day. Anyway, Rex and Andrea were in the office, trying to boot the computer back up. I was standing with Ted and Ryan, who were talking about the guy eating his food in our lobby. I guess his name was Russ? Yeah, they didn't speak too highly of him. I guess he used to work there, but he ended up trying to sleep with the general manager's underage niece or some shit like that. I don't know. I do know that I saw Deborah walk in. She regarded Russ with a sneer as she walked by him though. She walked through the lobby, past the counter, and into the bathroom, which was like around a tight corner. You saw.
I did.
She also had an old book with her. It looked like a fucking witchcraft book, honestly. I mean, just like, putting it bluntly, shit had a pentagram on it. No one except myself noticed her walk in, other than Russ. Ted had his back to the counter. He was staring at the black screen on his phone, and he just kept repeating, "Why the fuck isn't this working?" Then Ryan. Mine ain't working either. Andrea and Rex exited the office after that. Both had tried calling the GM, and well, the district manager. Nothing was on. Nothing worked. "What do you think? Did we get hit with an EMP?" asked Chance. "EMP? Motherfucker, an electromagnetic pulse would have killed the power," said Ted. "The power was on." "Cyber attack then?" asked someone else. And then Greg. "Just 'cause the internet's off doesn't mean we can't work." I rolled my eyes. "Guys, my phone isn't working either." Russ's voice sounded off from the counter. "Holy shit," Ted said as he turned around. Rex groaned. "Russ, you know what's gonna happen if Amy sees you in here?" "What?" I'm gonna be completely honest. Russ didn't seem all too bright. I heard the back door open. I turned to look. A very tall guy walked in, and even though I was maybe 50 feet from him, I could tell that this dude was higher than a kite. That was another driver, Finn. He held up his phone. "Guys, I think something's wrong." Rex laughed. "Well, if nothing works, you think we can go home?"
What was Deborah doing in the bathroom?
Taking a shit, maybe? I don't entirely know. I know that we heard her scream. Like a blood-curdling scream that sent a wave of silence that resounded throughout the store. We all stood there for a moment. I made eye contact with Ted. "Was that from the bathroom?" he asked. I nodded. Then came Ryan's voice. "I guess someone's got hemorrhoids." "Dude, gross."
Did you check on her?
Not for a few minutes. I told him I saw Deborah walk in, and we all kind of figured she was yearning for attention. Which, I mean, she was. And honestly, a few minutes later, she walked out of the bathroom and out of the store. She didn't even look at any of us. We were all busy trying to figure out what was going on. waiting for the boss to show up.
Hmm.
Anyways, there was some talk about the electronics. Russ actually started to leave. Ted walked toward the bathroom, then stopped when he rounded the corner. I remember staring at him when he was standing there. I could see all the color had drained from his face. Guys? His voice was soft, a little shaky. You could barely hear it over the cacophony of discussion. Then it came again louder. Guys? Everyone turned and looked at him. My eyes hit the floor. There was a massive puddle of blood. Ted was just standing in it.
Deborah was dead in the bathroom?
She was more than fucking dead. She'd had her throat ripped out. She looked like she'd been mauled. Pages of that book littered the floor and were soaked in blood.
You said you thought you saw her walk out?
I did, which was why everyone was confused. I wasn't the only one. Ted needed some air. I don't blame him. He walked out the front door, which was like just a short walk through the lobby. He left bloody footprints behind him. My first thought was that they should have gone next door to the nail salon for help. You know, 'cause Jimmy's Hot Pie is in that building with the salon and gym.
What was Ryan's reaction to Deborah's passing?
He didn't say a word. I actually walked with him to go to the nail salon for help.
But there was no one there. They were closed.
Which was why we walked to the gym. Ryan had a membership, so he scanned his keys and got us inside. He marched his way to the office, but no one was there. Ryan got frustrated and walked deeper into the gym. It's a small gym, no doubt you saw it. That was where we found Russ. I think it was Russ. His face had been turned to mush by a 45-pound weight.
So at this point, why didn't anyone try to drive for help?
I'm getting to that. We were standing over his body. Ryan just started laughing, like maniacally laughing. I bet he tried to fuck the Deborah we saw leave. I can remember looking at him with a raised brow. Are you sure that was what we saw? Ryan took a shaky breath. I don't know, man. Then came the loud bang. Like, loud. I don't know how else to describe it other than how it sounded. It was a fucking car crash.
The blue Hyundai? Rico?
Look at you, so perceptive.
What did it crash into?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Okay, well, tell me anyway.
An invisible barrier.
An invisible barrier?
You heard me.
You serious?
As a heart attack.
So who pulled Rico from the car?
I did. Kit was covered in blood.
Was he dead when he was pulled out?
No, he was alive, for maybe a minute. He was coughing and choking up blood. His eyes were wild and terrified.
Okay, here's where I'm confused. That car looks like it had to have been going 50 or 60 at the time of the collision. You guys have a very small parking lot. I don't know how he built up to that speed.
I just delivered pizzas, man. I'm not a physicist. That being said, though, I'm not sure it was the crash that did him in.
Why is that?
You saw the claw marks on his chest. I heard you mention it at the crime scene.
Now who's perceptive?
Touché.
So, what happened next?
Ryan felt along the invisible barrier. It stopped at the edge of the parking lot on all sides. Half the staff was outside at this point, all watching us from the front door of the store. Andrea had her hand over her mouth like she was shocked. Rex had his hands on his hips. Chance was throwing his guts up off the curb. Doug was, well, crying like a little bitch. Vicky didn't say much. We all went back inside the store. Ted was sitting in one of the booths, just staring at the wall. Ryan asked him if he was okay. Ted didn't say anything. He just stared. There was some discussion in the lobby. Discussion that was interrupted when Greg came around with the mop and started mopping up the blood at the bathroom. What an idiot, mopping up the crime scene. Rex told him to stop. Greg just rolled his eyes. Gotta earn my pay. Beats being lazy. We ignored him. We came up with some ground rules, just in case. We all knew they sounded crazy, you know, but people were dead. Rule 1, no one goes anywhere alone. Pretty straightforward. Rule 2, we were going to lock down the store. Whatever was doing this was still in the area. We figured we were better off as a group. Andrea came up with the idea to take attendance, see who was all here and accounted for. It was her, Rex, Ryan, Chance, Ted, Vicky, Greg, myself, Jack, and Doug, and a kid called Brenden. Finn was not in the store. It was upon realizing this, knowing he was probably in his car, that Ryan walked out the back door. I followed him, as did Doug. Finn's car was parked out back, right in front of the back door. We knew he was dead before we even got close. His throat had been slit. His vape had been crudely shoved into his eye socket. Blood painted the windshield. Ryan walked on by and unlocked his truck. He reached inside and pulled out a pistol. He cocked it, then looked at me as he put it into the back of his waistband. What? I thought packing heat was against store policy. This is Texas. I nodded at that. Texas is the same across the multiverse.
What?
Anyway, Ryan walked over to Ted's Mustang and opened the door. He ducked inside and pulled another pistol from in there. He sighed as he backed out. I got a quick peek inside. There was a pink car seat in there, one for a small child. I hadn't noticed it when Ted was training me. I turned and looked out around the parking lot. The sun was setting now. I could see in the corner, right by the big green dumpster, there was another body. This one in the blue and gray Jimmy's Hot Pie uniform. Ryan? I asked. Ryan turned his head, and I could hear the breath hitch in his throat. He took off. I followed. Doug was behind us. When we got there, we found Ted. He was sitting with his back against the dumpster, his entrails hanging out from his stomach. He was still alive. Ryan dropped to a knee next to him. Ted smiled at him. That bitch gutted me. Can you believe that? Ryan exhaled. I see you. You got my gun. I told you to stop leaving your car unlocked. Bitch, I wasn't complaining. Ryan laughed softly. Do me a favor. Shoot that bitch in her potato-looking ass. Ryan nodded. I will. The life faded from Ted's eyes. Then came Doug's voice. How had he noticed it before we had? If Ted is here, who was in the store? Q was running again, straight into the back door and into the store, where all hell was unfolding.
You wanna elaborate?
There was blood everywhere. The old man, Greg, had been impaled with a mop stick and was crumpled over the edge of the sink, his face buried in the sanitizer. Vicky's hitless body was on the floor beneath his feet. There was a loud chopping sound coming from the front. Ryan had Ted's pistol aimed. His hands shook a bit. We passed Jack's body. It was missing an arm. That gave me a flashback. We also passed Brenden, who'd had his lower jaw ripped off. We entered the dining area, where we found that the thing had turned into Deborah again, and was using the pizza cutter to just tear into Rex while Andrea and Chance hid under a booth.
A pizza cutter?
It's worse than you think. It wasn't one of the circular cutters. This thing was a 16-inch long sharpened piece of stainless steel that is used for chopping pizza. You can get some force behind it. Ryan opened fire. The gunshots were loud, and they didn't do a damn thing. Deborah looked up at him and smiled. Blood smeared across her face. Then she spoke. That voice, surprisingly deep. What's wrong, Ryan? Isn't this what you wanted? She reared back and launched the blade. It somehow landed in Doug's forehead. His body fell. Now your competition is gone. We can be together forever. Ryan fired several more times. Deborah charged, tackling him to the ground, her jaws taking a chunk out of his throat as they fell. I stepped backward, my eyes finding Andrea and Chance as they started to try and sneak out the front door. Andrea tried to push it open, but it didn't budge. The creature snapped back and turned towards them. Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. A fucking locked door? That's what kills me? Chance barked. That was when its body morphed. It changed into some kind of humanoid, reptilian creature. It had this green scaly skin. Its arms were long and its hands clawed. Its teeth numerous and needle-like. Then there was its eyes. They were yellow with black slits. This thing was upon the couple in a flash, ripping and tearing. I rolled Ryan's body over. His blood drenched my hands as I pulled his pistol from his back. Then I aimed it. There wasn't much of the once happy couple left. Everything got still. The creature stopped eating and slurping. It stood straight up and turned toward me. I fired the weapon. The gun bucked in my hand. The creature simply smiled. I fired again and again until the gun clicked empty. The creature stepped forward. I stepped backward. This thing knew I had no weapons left to fight it. It knew it could tear this body's flesh from its bones. It knew this body would be its next meal. I stood there as it stomped up to me. This thing was massive. It towered over me. I looked up into its eyes. Its head was still humanoid, but reptilian at the same time. I narrowed my eyes at it. It licked its lips at me. Its tongue was gray and lizard-like. It was gross. The thing's breath smelled like blood and death.
You can't expect me to believe this. I mean, a shape-shifting alien?
I never said alien.
Regardless, this is all extremely far-fetched.
You saw the claw marks, the bodies.
I did. I'm sure there's a logical explanation. I don't think we've got an alien shapeshifter running around.
It wasn't an alien.
Then what was it?
Vergessen.
Forgotten?
You know you're German?
Perceptive, remember? So tell me, what was this thing?
A Vergessen, a forgotten remnant from when the multiverse was new. They have several names, several origins. Some believe they're of a Gehennian nature, but they're not. No one knows for sure from where they hail. They're supposed to be sequestered away in purgatory for eternity. But last week, one appeared in my domain. Now, I couldn't just kill an endangered species and all, but I also couldn't just send it away to a random Earth, a violation of free will and all. Plus, the keepers would bitch, and God forbid I have to deal with Marcus, or Grayson, yada yada.
What?
Detective Thompson, I thought you were perceptive.
I don't follow. You let this thing out?
Well, I didn't. Deborah did. I just gave her the spell book and told her which one would make Ryan love her. You'd be surprised what insane desperation does to people, particularly young women with mental health issues. They'll believe anything.
And that's why the creature spared you?
The creature spared me because I put up the barrier that kept its food from getting away. It was all a bit of fun, really.
Note: it's at this point in the interview when there's a sudden knock on the door. Detective Thompson, myself, stands up to open it. Outside is a man wearing a suit. Originally, I thought he was a government agent. He held out a badge that read FBI. He was older, white, dark hair, in his 50s. My name is Agent David Stone. You mind if I have a word with your suspect? I shut the door behind me. Go ahead. He's talking a bunch of nonsense about shapeshifters and magic spells. I can smell crazy on that one. Agent Stone seemed to chuckle at this. I then entered the room. He came in behind me. Interview continued. Lawson.
Well, you're early.
David Stone.
You've created quite a ruckus.
Detective Thompson.
I'm sorry. Do you two know each other?
Lawson.
My son is dating his daughter.
Note: Lawson appears to be in his mid-20s. Interview continued. Lawson.
Don't look at me like that, detective. You look stupid.
David Stone.
What are you doing on this earth, Lucifer? People are dead because of you.
Have you come to arrest me? Why? You'd only leave that corpse you're walking around in. I'm here because I need your help. My help?
Yeah, that thing running around isn't the only one. They're up to something, and you're going to help us figure out what.
That's where Grace gets it from. That assertiveness. You know she pecked my son?
Let's go.
Detective Thompson.
What? You can't just take my suspect?
End of interview. Report continued. This is where things get weird. Or weirder. Agent Stone snapped his fingers and vanished. Lawson's body went limp and crumpled to the floor. Medics were called in. Lawson was pronounced dead on the scene. An autopsy would later reveal that he died of an OD. The estimated time of death? The morning before the event, which didn't make any sense to me. Obviously, we didn't know how to explain any of this to the grieving families. We interviewed Amy, the general manager of Jimmy's Hot Pie. She didn't even remember hiring Lawson. We interviewed Lawson's roommates. They didn't even know he'd gotten a job at the pizzeria. He was supposedly a full-time student who already worked as a gas station clerk in another nearby city. He was supposed to be there during the incident. It's just another in a long list of unanswered questions. We contacted the FBI. They don't have an agent David Stone. Again, another unanswered question. This case has caused many in the department to reconsider their careers in law enforcement, myself included. It isn't just the unanswered questions. It's the brutality of the murders, the fatherless daughter, the grieving families, the mess, the lack of actual news coverage. Nothing bad ever happens in this town. Not like this.